Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and it's time for the 2018 end of the year Steam wishlist cleanup. We'll be good looking at the games starting with the letter K, so I'm going to scroll through these as we talk. So basically, I have a Steam wishlist that's a mess. It's a mix between games that I want to definitely cover and play and purchase, and games that maybe I want to play and purchase. A lot of games that are new and I'm just not certain about. So what I should have been doing throughout the course of the last year when I was streaming, which I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I play Hearthstone. I look at every single game that comes out on Steam, and what I do is if that game that has come out that very day on Steam looks of a certain level of quality, I have been putting it on the wish list. I should have been putting it on the secondary follow list to keep things more separated and logical. So now we have this mess and it's time to do some cleanup. The good news is, after doing all this cleanup, next year will be relatively easy. I'll just have to look at the follow list, and that will be that. It'll be extremely shorter experience than what this year will be. That being said, this year's experience is going to be particularly long. Although, to be honest, the J's weren't really that long, and I don't think the K's are going to be that long either, which looks good, but we are slowly approaching the T's, and the T's will include everything that starts with the word "the," and will be an incredibly long series episode. So first game we have on Steam is called Kibitz. It's a 2016 game that is only 18% positive. I have no idea why this is on my wish list, but we will use it as an example before I move the over to the other monitor and put it in the remove column. I have 4 columns, one that says remove, one that says put it at the top of the list, one that says ignore it completely, and there's a box that's usually here if you're logged in that says ignore, and one to put it on the follow list. So we won't be ignoring very many games. Typically there's only a couple of games and basically one reason why games would be ignored, and that's because the developer has done something like a DMCA against people who have covered their game, and thus it becomes dangerous for a video game critic on YouTube to criticize somebody's game if they're willing to violate federal law to silence them. But we'll use this game as a example. We're looking for red flags. We found the _1 red flag. It's negative. Secondarily, it has less than my threshold of 25 paid for through Steam reviews. That's what this number means. If somebody gets a Steam key or gets the game given to them for free through Steam, their review is not counted, so often at the bottom there are more reviews. We have basically every plugin from Chrome's store that revolves around Steam, and most of these will not be that helpful, but it has been helpful in some instances. We'll look at I believe this is the Is There Any Deal plugin. We'll talk about a historical low, 49 cents. I don't believe you can actually get a game below 49 cents on Steam before you have to make it free. Another red flag is that this game is in a bundle of several other games that are of questionable quality, so that they can get you to pay what seems like a reasonable amount until you realize that you've paid $13 for 8 games that probably aren't worth 50 cents each. We'll also want to keep an eye on games to make sure that they have a significant single player element and aren't just a multiplayer game, because as a video game critic, I don't really have a way of criticizing video multiplayer experiences since they change drastically depending on who you're playing with. Keep an eye on the DLC, you know, just to see if perhaps they're trying to gouge you with some extra DLC. We'll keep an eye on the language. If we find a game that is English and Russian only, or English and Chinese, whether simplified or traditional only, those games tend to be very low quality troll games in higher numbers than any others. We have a how long to beat plugin that, if it has data, will tell you how long it takes to beat the main story with the extras, or complete it 100%. We have some other plugins that would show reviews if this game had reviews, like a Metacritic and OpenCritic score that might be slightly helpful. Generally speaking, we'll ignore the about this game text. We have Steam charts information, which will tell us an all-time peak, today's peak, who's playing now. That information slightly useful in knowing if the game was ever very big. It's kind of surprising that this game would ever have 1,562 people playing it at the same time. It seems like it would be an achievement game or a trading card game, and I guess maybe it is. That's the only reason why I could even think that there's this many people who have played it. Also, the average play time, which is different than the time it takes to beat the game. It's just what is the average amount of time people have had the application open. Average play time in the last 2 weeks, that was 0 from the Steam Spy plugin. We probably won't be doing much with the performance survey, and if it was in question, we would well, if it were in question, we'd look at the reviews, but I, for the most part, only want to look at the negative reviews, and I want the negative reviews that can be easily skimmed, so I don't want something that goes on for an incredibly long amount of time. Short reviews, whether positive or negative, don't help. When you have something that just says nice game or 6 out of 10, that's not giving me any real information. And again, positive reviews I generally ignore. A lot of people got this game for free and still do not like it. This is oddly a bad game, considering it's to be on the wish list. And then we'll look and see if this developer, what else this developer or publisher has made, to see if the game is in good company or bad company. In this instance, I would say this developer's, the game Kibitz is on, or is it Kibitz? I don't even know. It's in bad company. There's almost every game is rated negatively. There's a couple of them that are rated mixed. That is really bad quality. Yeah, I have no idea why this is on the wishlist. My only guess is this was either I accidentally clicked something, or a case of I wishlisted some game that has since been delisted from Steam, and the app ID was the same as this, which should not happen for the exact reason that you wouldn't want somebody's wishlist to include games that they've never even seen before. And this totally feels like a game that, had I even seen it for a second, I would have never put it on the wish list. I mean, this really is just a total garbage game. It seems to have no relevancy or anything. Moving forward, next we have Kabounce, fast-paced multiplayer pinball game where you control the ball. Now it's multiplayer, so that might be the thing that removes this game from the wish list. It's rated very positively. It's 92% positive. I'd like to see how this actually plays. So you're controlling the balls, you're somewhat like, but how much control do you really have in a situation like this? It doesn't seem like too much. Seems like you're going all over the place, trying to go through air rings, which seems like this really feels like too fast a pace of a game for its own good. I'm seeing a lot of demos here that look cool, but I suspect an average player would not be able to get them. And it looks like the fields don't change too much. So it says single player, but I really have to question what the single player experience is here, and in that rare instance I need to read about the game. Let's see. Split screen, time attack, test your skills and race against ghosts and friends in a parkour like platforming, well in style, cross-platform between PS4 and Steam. Yeah, there's nothing here that implies there's a significant single player experience. So for that weird reason, then this is going to get removed. This is a moderately new game, so I don't think it's totally dead. Guess we could come down and see, like, the all-time peak was 93 players according to Steam charts, and today's peak was 27. So if anything, it's still as active as it ever was, but that is an incredibly small number of players. So this almost is a game that is setting itself up to be a hidden gem, and the developer hasn't made anything else. But it can't really be a hidden gem because of the fact that you're going to, if you were to buy this game, say, a year from now, you're not going to have anybody to play with. Even right now, I don't feel like you're going to have anybody to play with. You'd have to play local split screen just to make up for the fact that you couldn't get random people to play along with you. The idea is fine, the concept is fine, but very possibly things like PUBG, Fortnite, Rocket League have all combined to sap all the oxygen out of the room as far as games like that. So yeah, this has to be removed from my own personal wish list because I couldn't really cover it, and it doesn't sadly seem like it's gonna succeed for other reasons. Next we have a game called Kairo, K-A-I-R-O. I forget people can actually see that. So this is a puzzle exploration game, surreal according to the user tags. It's 75% positive of 1,279 reviews. It looks kind of generic, and you could really claim that it is just an asset flip game. And I don't think it really is. I think it's probably made by a developer who didn't have 100% of the skill to design the game they were thinking about making. That being said, I think they got most of the way there. But yeah, you can totally see a slight lack of texture. That being said, The Witness also had a lack of texture that turned out to play a very important role. So perhaps in 3D environment puzzle games, it's important to not have little bits of detail, because someone might get obsessed with it and think it's part of some kind of solution that it really isn't. This, in all honesty, doesn't look amazing. The gameplay seems to be walking around and activating things, if I was to guess. but it does kind of feel like a slight Myst clone, and I'm a big fan of Myst. So I'll leave this on the wish list. Again, maybe not pay $4.99 for it. Maybe see if you can get it back down to its historical low of 74 cents. That makes a huge difference. Just what you pay for it. Of course, this is a single player game. Has 11 achievements, it's 3 to 4 hours. It has a 76 rating on Metacritic. So, yeah, everything looks good enough to leave on the wish list. Moving forward. Next we have a game called Kalimba. Jump and switch and fly your way through mind-building subterranean puzzles. This looks like this might be co-op only, or it might just be a platformer. So I want to see how this actually plays. Let's go and skip the intro. So it seems like you're controlling two things at the same time, and sometimes you'll stack, and this is the case of like controlling more than two things at the same time sometimes, and only certain colors can walk in certain colors. Yeah, I don't know about this one. This DLC is suspicious too. You have to pay for the solo and the co-op separately. But it's rated very positively. Let's see. Can you really play this as a single player experience? I guess I should keep it just because it was published by Microsoft Studios, which gives it some relevancy, which is weird. Like, clearly people liked it. Clearly it has something more to it. Really well-crafted puzzle platformer. Here's a very bad example of a negative review. I downloaded the game and it's not working. That doesn't really tell anything to anybody playing on Steam. Wow, is that something to be proud of? This is my 500th Steam review. What are you doing with your life? It's not like you're getting paid to write Steam reviews, or maybe you are. See, my question really comes down to, can you play this single player? Because I'm seeing a lot of things that say play with friends, but almost as if a warning. I'm taking it as a warning. It's like, don't play this game single player. I think I can do it, and there's just sometimes you have to bow to the masses, and I think this is one of those cases. As for what else this developer has made, Max and the Curse of the Brotherhood is a 2014 game. I'd like to cover that game, but that's significantly different. Too. Max and the Magic Marker would have been before then. So I know this who Press Play is now, and of course everybody should know Microsoft Studios, putting out Microsoft's games or random games. They were on the Xbox. So Max and the Magic Marker, I guess I'll make sure that's on the wish list. And Max and Curse of the Brotherhood is way more positive than the first game. So we move on to the next thing. So far, I'm surprised we've even found 2 games to remove, because I imagine this will be a short experience, where with most things getting kept. The Kane and Lynch series struggles for relevancy, certainly. Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days is mixed reviews. It was never really a great game, but it's a pretty hyped game. It's from IO Interactive. This version's not playable in Germany. Although Germany has changed its laws, so maybe this game would get rated if somebody spent the time. 4 to 6 hours of gameplay for this. But the fact that the Kane and Lynch series is kind of gone and dead, and this came out in 2010, and I'm not sure that IO Interactive is still around, so I don't think they have anything else that they've made. At least they haven't made anything else on Steam. So you're talking about a AAA game series with Kane and Lynch that wasn't very successful and just becomes this kind of forgotten experience. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever actually buy these games, but I'll keep them on the wish list long enough to till there's a sale. Like right now at 99 cents, that's actually a very good price. Like $1 for a mixed game that has relevance because it's a Square Enix published game and a IO Interactive game makes a lot of sense. But were I to pay the main prices of $7 each, that's a little bit harder to deal with. So same is true with Kane and Lynch Dead Men. The stories of Kane and Lynch are 2 really bad guys doing really bad things, with really like absolutely no redeeming qualities, and I imagine that's probably where the mixed reviews come from, at least in part, is that the characters are just not likable. Here we're seeing Windows 10 compatibility issues, which is certainly a problem. Let's see. Games for Windows Live, last time I ran into that, it was confusing as far as how it actually works, because now the Games for Windows Live doesn't exist. They didn't bother to patch any of the games and remove that component. But there is a way to make a local offline profile and continue to play the games, at least in the one game I ran into with it. But yeah, it's a real struggle to play these games. Honestly, you have to weight the Kane and Lynch series against something like the GTA series, and I think Grand Theft Auto would probably succeed way better than as far as which one to play. Moving on, we have Karate Master 2 Knockdown Blow. This is a slightly intriguing idea of a game, because it's a fighting game more around doing karate or judo or something, and some kind of more martial arts that they're calling karate. And it also has some elements of RPG in the game. And it seems like you're doing a little bit more than just karate elements. So this was rated 84% positive. I must have run across this and said, okay, There really aren't a ton of games where you actually do karate. There's a lot of games where a fighter in a fighting game will know karate, or perhaps a character in a regular game will know some karate, but not a lot of this is straight up the main focus, at least not in the current days. This is from the developer of the Age of Barbarian extended cut, which is kind of a well-received bad game, so that makes sense where I ran into this game. And this publisher has published a lot of MotoGP games, which doesn't really put it in good company. There's a lot of mixed reviews on that. I want to see if there is something called Karate Master 1 on Steam, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. If there is a predecessor to this game, seems like it's totally missing. Yeah, another thing called Karate Master 1. Moving on, we have Karateka, which is a remake from the Prince of Persia creator Jordan Mechner. There was an original game called Karateka that I don't believe you can get. It was like a NES game, and oddly, it kind of is a karate game too, although it's more of a rhythm game, and it works pretty well. But this game was slightly weird because it felt a little bit like a cell phone port. It very possibly is a really pretty cell phone port, but that's not a good enough reason to remove it from the wish list. Let's see, you can see when I'm searching here, there's no other game called Karateka, yeah. And so we can see the developer is, well, the Steam beta publisher developer just switched the developer link to the .emu link. So the publisher .emu has several old games that they're publishing. Not particularly bad games though. I'm actually surprised that this came out in 2012. I would have thought it came out a lot earlier than, well, actually I would have thought it came out a lot later than that. Let's see, next we have Karma Incarnation 1. This is a 2016 game, so the idea of a sequel for this point and click adventure game is going to be the main factor here. If this has a sequel and finishes the story up, I'm cool with keeping this point and click adventure game on my wish list because I love point and click adventure games. This definitely looks like a weirdo game, very surreal. But if it doesn't have a sequel out kind of now, even though this came out in 2016, at best I put this on the fall list. At worst I remove it completely. And I think I probably, well, I'll put it on the fall list, but I was leaning for a second there into removing it completely. This is 2019 is going to be the year of me rejecting playing episodic games. I don't think we'll be playing anything that isn't a completely finished story, even if it's like a AAA developer game. I want a complete and full experience for the most part. Next we have Kartong Death by Cardboard, which almost feels like it's a VR game where you stand in place. The idea of a world built around cardboard sounds interesting. You've been shrunken down to the size of a guinea pig, trapping you in a home-built cardboard maze of evil toys and traps. Your goal is now to escape, but beware, Sven is watching you. So this is either a VR game or it's kind of just an odd experience game. Says single player, HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. So it is a VR game. So does it say somewhere here in the description it can be played without VR? Yeah, VR or non-VR, it's all up to you. VR is losing favor, certainly. Questionable. It's kind of questionable whether I'd want to play this game out of VR, though, because of just how much the VR elements are built into it. But I don't know. I guess I'll leave it for that reason. It's 88% positive with 36 reviews, which means it's not a ton of reviews. Let's see if we can see some of the negative reviews. Game has its ups and downs. It's definitely a good concept for a game, and the uniqueness of it makes it interesting, but the mechanics of the game need a lot of work. It can be glitchy from time to time. The teleportation mechanic is very weird because it makes you choose which direction you want to face after teleporting and can be disorienting. It's a kind of fun game but needs quite a bit of improvement. Do we have another one? What did I waste my money on? I'd really like to see somebody talk about like playing it without VR. Even without VR, this game is a lot of fun. Finding a way through each level gets more difficult as you progress. Lots of various weapons. I personally love the bazooka. It's a nice touch. The ambient sound is fantastic. Use maps, stealth, and traps to your advantage as you can reset them. Great game. Alright, I think I'll be generous and leave this on the wish list. But it certainly is a close game that I could see myself removing. And the only other game this developer has made is Survive the Deus Helix. Or SVIVE, which requires a Vive headset, I imagine, or an Oculus Rift. So yeah, people certainly were big into VR for a couple of years there, and now they've kind of decided to give up on it because it hasn't been as profitable or successful as they thought it was going to be. And I don't know where they got the idea it would be that successful, considering how expensive headsets are. Next we have Kathy Rain, which is a point-and-click adventure game. Again, sucker for point-and-click adventure games. It's 92% positive or 93% positive for its entire life. The only thing I'd say is let's see what else this developer has made. Apparently nothing. Do they have anything in upcoming games either? So no, this is the only game they've made since 2016, which isn't a big problem because I generally give a developer 4 years to announce something or have a page before I assume that they've given up on making video games. But after about 4 years you fall out of the realm of reasonable. This publisher has several other games that might be interesting. A Kingdom series, something called Goner, and Torment X Punisher, Yoranogog Unlimited, and Dandara. Let's just look at every single game that Raw Fury has. Like, honestly, doing stuff like this ends up having me add potentially more games than are getting removed from the wish list, but that's alright because it also means I'm filling in gaps and not missing out on games, because there's always that danger that there's very, very old games or obscure games that I would actually like to cover on my YouTube channel that I just don't see. I think I remember this game, Kingdom. I'll add it back to the wish list. It's kind of a strategy slash moving tower defense game. So yeah, and then Kingdom New Lands is 2016 continuation of it. Yeah, that Kingdom game might actually be the best example of doing something better than a tower defense. As for Goner, I think I already looked at this game and decided that I didn't really want to play it just because it didn't look that good. So I'll close this. If I did decide to keep it on the wish list, it will stay on the wish list though, so that doesn't really matter. Then Torment X Punisher is a really weirdo looking game, but it's, I think, a twin stick shooter game. At the top, yeah, according to these tags, just doesn't look very good. So you may have a fancy trailer video here, but the truth is the game itself looks pretty bad, so we'll close that. And then Yorog Unlimited is mixed reviews at 68% with only 16 reviews as a puzzle platformer. I'm trying to see if there's something here that would convince me I want to play this game. I don't feel like that there really is anything. Yeah. This doesn't really look like it's much of a game. So yeah. Let's go ahead and just close this tab, be kind of picky, raise our standards. My standards right now, as far as games I keep on the wish list, is still pretty low, and I'm crippled by indecision, so that's a problem. This might be something. Let's see. It's rated very positively. This might be a very difficult game, or it might be alright to play too. Seeing her move so fast, I question a little bit about how much of that is required or not. Or can you play it pretty slowly if you want to? Well, I'm willing to leave this on the wish list, or double check this on the wish list. Moving on with games, let's start with the letter K, which is what we started with. We have Keepsake. It says Keepsake was a labor of love developed 10 years ago by an independent studio. That is something you don't hear a lot from as far as games, and I would like to see that more, but I guess it would be the same thing over and over again. As like every single developer for every single game would say their game was a labor of love developed however many years ago. This is a 2006 game, so now it would be 12 years ago. It's rated 84% positive with 33 reviewers. It's a point-and-click adventure game in 3D, which there is slight differences there, but I don't feel like the two subgenres really change that much, whether you're playing it with a 2D graphics or 3D graphics point-and-click. There's really no reason, and there's no way this would leave my wish list. This potentially is the one hidden gem that I might ever find on Steam. Like, I'd love to find lots and lots more, but most people have either played the games or heard of the games, and they're not really hidden gems, or they are just are no hidden gems. The only thing I could think is, has this developer made anything else? Not really. They said this was published April 17th, 2018, but it was actually released in 2006, so I'm wondering if this was a game that was on a console at some point, but I suspect no, it wasn't. Let's see. We thought it would be great to see it live again on Steam and gain a new following, as we feel that it's still relevant today. It was hard and long, but we loved developing it and still remember those days fondly. Like, all-time peak of 17 people at the same time playing this game. It's a single-player game, so that doesn't really matter. My only concern is if this was a unfinished game. 7 to 10 hours. Let's see. Let's read this -1. It always crashed during the credits, and the final achievement is for watching the credits all the way through. So it seems to be slightly crashy. And I hate to play crashy games, but crashing through the credits at the end of the game is not a big deal to me. So yeah, this stays on the wish list. And if you are an achievement hunter, you should stop that, particularly on Steam, where achievements don't mean anything and only the ones that you get 100% on are even highlighted. It would make a lot more sense if you were achievement hunting on Xbox or PS4, but Steam never cared about achievements. Next we have Kelvin and the Infamous Machine, which is, I don't think, out yet. Well, I guess it is, but it's, what am I missing here? I guess nothing. It's 87% positive. Just has a really short publisher and developer name, so I'm used to it being lower to the box. And there's no user tags. That's the deal. That's what I'm missing. I swear this is a point-and-click adventure game, though. Yeah, point-and-click adventure from a lesser-known company or an unknown company. They want $14.99, which is asking too much, but it has gotten down to $3.74, so that would be more reasonable for 3 to 4 hours of gameplay. Metacritic gave it a 79 score. That's not too bad. So this person hated the humor, so fair enough. That's a subjective opinion. Asked for a refund and smile one time. Maybe it's the typical American humor. So the 2 reviews are of people that didn't like the humor in it, which could be an issue, certainly. But that, for a video game critic, is the kind of stuff that I love and would love to cover. Is if something is badly written, if the humor is bad, that's just pure gold as far as criticism is concerned. Although I'm not going to buy a game just because it's bad. The vast majority of people say this is good, so it stays on the wish list. Next we have Ken Follett's The Pillars of Earth. This is weird because you feel like Ken Follett is some person you should know, but in all honesty, I have no idea who he is. Now, it's being developed and published by Daedalic Entertainment, which is a publisher I do know. They make point-and-click adventure games. They're a German company. Almost every game they make has a disappointing, sad ending to it that you kind of have to just learn to live with. So maybe from a German perspective, Ken Follett is someone you know. They usually don't go with an animation style like this or with a more medieval style world. So you're having a very different experience. This is asking quite a lot of money, even when its historical low was $12. So I probably wouldn't buy this game unless I had just run out of, I had a lot of extra money, or it was on a really deep discount, because it seems like it's asking quite a bit. But that's not not a good enough reason to remove it from the wish list. It's just a reason to wait a few more years and see the price drop. We could see the other things by Daedalic, but it's not going to help that much. State of Mind is another game that's really just a point-and-click adventure that looks very pretty, and in the end I think is slightly confusing to people because they thought it was going to be a real adventure game, but it really wasn't. There are 45 games listed, but Daedalic is actually getting a lot prettier as far as what it's animating compared to, say, its namesake of Deponia, which was a flat cartoon animated game. Although, in all fairness, I think if we go to the end, even some of their very first games were pretty high level quality in their animation. Like, they never really skimped out that much, particularly compared to other video game developers who often make games that look really bad. Next we have Kerbal Space Program. Now this is just one of a small handful of games that are not available on this account, and I'm just trying to get every game on this account. I've already covered Kerbal Space Program. It's an incredibly difficult game that's probably not worth your time, and let's face it, last thing I heard about it, most of the programmers had been asked to leave, laid off, and it was really just being sold with no intention of continuing to add functionality or programming to it. So I haven't played it probably since its 1.0 version. I could see jumping in and saying, let's see what the 1.5, or I wouldn't even be surprised if they came out with a 2.0 version. I'd love to own this on this account, but I'd probably only want to spend about 30 minutes showing off the new stuff. And I really can't even recommend this game either. It's always too expensive, $40 right now. And historical low has been $14. It really should have been closer to a $10 game, discounted, maybe $20 or $15 without it. The problem with Kerbal Space Program is it's a NASA simulator where you basically have to be a NASA scientist to understand what to do, and average regular players are not onboarded or trained or tutorialized at all anywhere close enough to know how to do the things that the game is asking you to do. It's from this developer squad who really isn't likely to make anything else ever, and what else do you really take from that? And then they also have the Making History expansion, which is another $15, which probably should have been added to the main game, just to keep things, keep the main game worthwhile. There certainly was big fans and lots of YouTubers who are streaming Kerbal Space Program. I made videos of Kerbal Space Program that did particularly well, and also sadly were some of the worst videos I've ever made on my channel. So there would be a little bit of a redeeming hope in covering Kerbal Space Program, but I'm certainly not going to go back to spending 5 hours to get potentially one video or one mission done. Some video games really just ask way too much of your time, and Kerbal Space Program is a prime example of that. Next we have a game called Kids. I don't really have to concern myself with it because it's not out yet, so I can just put it on the follow list. There is another black and white looking game called Hidden People or Hidden Folk, and I could have sworn that this developer was the same developer that worked on this game, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. There's a third black and white game that'll probably show up on the wish list called Plug and Play that also looks like this. I guess what that all really just breaks down to is the idea that any game that is just doing black and white hollow imagery, like black and white hollow people and thick black lines on the outline, any game like that is going to probably look exactly the same. I'm not sure there's a great way to fix that until you start adding shading and grayscale. Next we have Kill the Plumber, which is 67% positive. This is a game that I want to be a lot better, and it isn't, so I need to be realistic and take it off the wish list. It's the idea of a Super Mario Brothers clone where you're playing as the bad guy is what I think it's selling itself on. It looks like that, but clearly doesn't quite play like that. And that's kind of a shame. If it played well, I'd love to cover this. I'm still looking for a clone to basically a lot of Nintendo games, like a Super Mario Bros. Clone, a Super Mario 64, a Zelda Ocarina of Time clone, Wind Waker clone, Four Swords clone, Metroid Prime clones. A lot of Nintendo games that I loved playing when I grew up that simply are never going to be available on PC, so I'd like to see somebody make something better, or take those ideas and improve upon them, or make something at least that good. Let's look at the reviews and see what they have to say. I'm looking really hard to see if there's something good. The controls are sluggish and unresponsive. The physics is pretty janky, and although this is somewhat mitigated by the fact that you can instantly reset a stage whenever you want, resetting can also screw with you because you can't. Your controls sometimes just don't work for a few moments after you reset, which is frustrating when you get to some later levels that require essentially perfect execution to get a full score, which is hard enough with the game controlling the way it does. Predicting the plumber's path can be difficult at times because his timing seems to be somewhat inconsistent in relation to your position, although that might have been me not being accustomed enough to the game. So we have a mixed reviewed game here, unfortunately. And let's look at the developer and see if they've made anything else. They've made a game called Pretentious Game, and they've made a game called Tower Fortress. So let's see if this developer's made anything else. Nope. And let's see if this publisher has made anything else. No. So Now might be a good time to pause the video and take a break, if you want to do that. Let's see. We have Pretentious game, which looks like a box sliding game. It does not look entertaining at all. It looks like a simplistic game that probably was designed for a cell phone. Yeah, I see nothing here I like about that. And then we have Tower Fortress, which seems like it might be a pretty decent game. 89% positive, like constantly running up and shooting. It feels like it might be sort of the opposite of Downwell, where Downwell has you going downwards, Tower Fortress has you going upwards. I didn't really like Downwell, to be honest, but perhaps this would play a little bit better. It is a pretty different thing, though, to jump up and be safe after landing on a platform and just constantly trying to fall downward. Moving on, we have Killer Instinct. Good question here is, should I play Mortal Kombat or Killer Instinct, or neither, or both, or Street Fighter? I think Mortal Kombat really has so much historical relevancy, it has to be played, and I think Killer Instinct very possibly also has some relevancy. Although, to be fair, this is a 2017 version of Killer Instinct, and it's kind of a shame Microsoft, through Rare, or I guess this is through actually Iron Galaxy, it's a shame that they didn't port the first Killer Instinct or Killer Instinct 2. There's several different console ports that all over the place. Frankly, there might have been a Game Boy Killer Instinct for all I know, but they should have ported at least the arcade versions of Killer Instinct 1 original and 2 and released them also, and instead they kind of just went with this remake. The remake is rated very positively. I think there is something with how you got characters that made it a little weird. So I'm not 100% sure that if you would spend $40 here, you would get all of the characters. There's clearly shop items and microtransactions, which sucks and it's just cheesy. But let's see, is there anything here that says anything about certain characters having to be bought? It says extensive cast of powerful combats with tons of customization options. See, I think there was a free entry to Killer Instinct on Xbox. See if we can see a negative review. Funny how this is a port, but it has massive input lag on the Steam version. Maybe that's because it's a Microsoft game. I don't have a problem with it with my Xbox Windows version. If you like fighting fighters, this is very fun for both new players and people with a KI feeling, which is the song on the soundtrack. I still love the old soundtrack to the best music ever, Killer Cuts, haha. So he's talking about the soundtrack. I can't recommend the game on Steam, but the game itself is pretty darn good. The reason I can't recommend it is because Microsoft has blocked cross-platform competitive online play. Other than that, the game is great, but I'm afraid it's a big but. The vast majority of players of KI are on Xbox, so if you buy it here, you wait for a really good sale, because to get a fully functional game, you'll have to buy it through the Windows Store, sorry to say. Make sure you don't attempt to get a physical copy of KI and install it on your account on your buddy's Xbox One, because that won't work, because then you're paying full wallet level prices of the store on the Microsoft Store. Single player works great. Well, that's really all I have to worry about, because frankly, again, I really would only play this game in single player, so I'd probably only put about the 2 hours into it, not the 409 hours to be a completionist. But I'm also happy with that idea of spending only a couple hours on Killer Instinct. Like, I really don't, I'm not that big of a fighter game player. I'd like to learn to get into fighting games, but in all honesty, I probably wouldn't stick with Killer Instinct for that. I'd go to something closer to Street Fighter. This developer, meanwhile, has developed several other games that I think we can pretty much be certain are already on the wish list. Only game that I don't think is on the wish list is Extinction. And we've already looked at the Microsoft Studios list of games they've published. Yeah, I guess I'll just double check to make sure this is on the wish list. Sadly, I guess Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy might be the closest thing to a Nintendo, a Mario clone, but it really isn't anywhere close. Like, Crash Bandicoot was never anything like that game. If anything, I'd say he's closer to a Sonic clone. Extinction, on the other hand, is 41% positive. Open world action adventure game. Yeah, doesn't seem like people would be happy with this game. It's 51% on Metacritic. Poor combat system lags behind DMC or Darksiders. The only thing to praise is the graphics of the game that will not catch up, but it does not offend. Otherwise the game is boring. I played 3 minutes and it was enough. For me, it's max 40% and refund it. So yeah, $60 game from 2018. Already people don't like it. This is from Iron Galaxies. I haven't heard anything about this game. That's really surprising. I'm gonna put this on the fall list just so next year we can I remember to look at it again and see if perhaps there's any news. There have been so many games coming out recently that an entire game can in this past year, so many games have come out that entire games have obviously come out without even getting any fanfare at all. Next we have Killer 7, which is not out yet on Steam. It's the republishing, I don't believe it's a remake of the old Killer 7 mature, is it from Swery? Suda 51 game. Not Swery, but Suda 51. So this is just a port, but I've never played Killer 7. Everybody says it's an amazing game. It sounds like an amazing game. Basic story is that you're this person who has 7 different split personalities and they're all assassins, and you're going through this story of I think trying to kill 1 or more people is the general idea. Let's see, it'll be available for the first time in 13 years. So it's going to be a real big deal when it comes out, certainly. Assuming it's not a horrible port that just is crashy and buggy, which it might also be that. Next we have Killing Floor 2. I believe I've covered Killing Floor 1 and it was alright, but kind of dated by the time I got around to it. So if I was to get this game and play it, it's only a couple years old and the graphics look way better than what they were. Now, I'm not sure really if Killing Floor is the true spiritual successor to something like Left 4 Dead, or perhaps even Dead Island, but it's clearly very, very positive. So there's no way I could remove this from my wish list. But again, this is also a game that I'd only spend a few minutes on and do a quick spotlight on. Meanwhile, Killing Floor Incursion, I guess, also exists. And what else has this developer made? There's a mod, Killing Floor Toy Master, for the first game, and Dwarves. Yeah, Killing Floor 1, 2009. I'm pretty sure I covered Killing Floor 1, but maybe I haven't. Maybe I covered something, I want to say Slaughtering Grounds, but I don't think so. So, like, Killing Floor 1 doesn't look recognizable, so I'm gonna have to do some research and see what I actually covered. I covered something that looks a lot like Killing Floor, though. Killing Floor Incursion, on the other hand, is 63% positive and requires VR, so that sucks. But that can be removed. Where the mod Toy Master is 19 reviews positive. This mod, I guess, is never going to get any more reviews, though. But 94% positive of the 19 reviews it got. But yeah, Killing Floor 1 is not the game I'm thinking of. I don't think. The game I'm thinking of looked a lot worse than this. Yeah, it was. So I have no idea what I covered that I thought I had covered that was called the Killing Floor. Yeah, that is weird. But then also you have to question, do you want to play this game that's kind of... No, I did play this game because this lady is very recognizable. These screenshots are just slightly misleading compared to what you would see at the beginning of the game, which was about as far as I got. Do I really want to play a game like this, or do I just want to play the Doom reboot? And I think, in all honesty, I probably just want to play the Doom reboot. Like, that has a much more relevancy as far as horror, zombie killing monsters, particularly cyber enhanced zombie killing monsters. I also remember, I think when I covered this, that everything was really dark in the Killing Floor 1. So yeah, it's not a high priority that I want to play Killing Floor 2, but I've already played 1. I'll show off 2. Clearly people do like it, but a lot of that also falls down into the co-op and the multiplayer. If you have people playing with you, you'll have a much better experience than what I did playing single player. Playing single player, it's pretty dull. And then Dwarves is rated very positively, but I'm not sure it's the kind of game for me. It looks like this is like the mobile version of Dungeon Keeper, which was an awful game. Yeah, I don't see anything here that would make Dwarves worth playing. If it's not visually appealing, then by that much, I'd never get into it. Moving on, we have Killing Time, which is a nudity RPG, anime, sexual content JRPG. As a trained assassin, let's see, all the battles reappear. 2 hours long, peak of 277 reviews. I think we'll leave this. Let's see, what can I say? It's a porno game. In the what kind of fetish genre? Poop or what? Well, this is a game I couldn't ever cover, so I'm gonna have to consider whether I want to keep this one on the wish list or not. It's mostly positive, but I'm gonna have to look at that one off screen just for the sake of my YouTube channel. Probably a straight up porno game that doesn't offer anything that I could criticize is not gonna stay, or doesn't offer some kind of gameplay mechanic that's interesting, is not gonna stay on the wish list. And honestly, if somebody was to gift me one of those games in the way that anybody can gift me any game off of my wish list in a way to support me, all I could possibly do is play the game and then talk about it in some live stream when I'm playing Hearthstone, or maybe I could make a standalone game, a video where I talk about it but have no visuals, and that would be extremely boring. So I haven't really thought that through as a process. Moving forward, we have a game called Kim, K-I-M, which is procedurally generated RPG according to the user tags. Let's see. Kim is a boisterous urchin from the 1880s. Thor, his wanderlust will take him all over India, breaching conversations, survival, stealth, and combat. Let me play Kim's coming of age however you want. The enormous open world of Kipling's India awaits you. I really have no idea what kind of game this would actually turn into. Like, I'm looking at every screenshot, and it seems almost like an adventure, but more a choose your own adventure type game. Let's see. You walk around from a top-down perspective, it seems, and do some stealth. And I would assume you get on trains. You know what this really seems like, though, is it is basically just a stealth game with a lot of polish around it. Let's look at the reviews, because I've seen some really bad games that are designed like that. $14.99 seems really high too. Let's see. Negative reviews. Yawn, an hour in and still not one noteworthy thing has happened. Visited places in India. Have a conversation. They're about as interesting as talking to mud, wandering around aimlessly because the tutorial's inadequate to really teach you much of anything. Starve constantly and become sick. Never have any money. An encounter happened literally one time, and only because I instigated it. I was immediately assassinated pretty much on the spot. It's just not very fun. Even at half price wasn't enough for me. I didn't to get the positive review. Maybe I should spend more than an hour playing, maybe not. Either way, that's not for me. I want to like this game, a video game about Kipling's Kim. I must be the only possible audience. Unfortunately, I found the game system poorly balanced and can't see how to have much fun. Fighting doesn't work, thieving doesn't work, and there doesn't seem to be any way to keep Kim happy and healthy. It's like an Indian Oregon Trail that only ends in dysentery. I'm sure someone who play tested and understood what was supposed to have happened had a different experience. I guess all I really learned about was the mysterious orient was probably pretty unhealthy and unfun. So we're getting the consistent complaints here of the game just being confusing and unfun. What I'm seeing seems to line up pretty well with that. It does look like a confusing game, and it looks like a boring game. And this company has only made one other game. And while this is rated positive, remember that it's only with 27 user reviews. So that's not very much. Moving forward, we have a game called Kimmy, which is a visual novel. Let's see. This one, I believe, let's see. Dana takes a lonely girl named Kimmy under her wing, worried about that she's having trouble making friends. Let the summer begin. Collect trinkets, play street games, and learn about Kimmy and her mysterious family as the summer passes. And see, unless this game takes a really dark twist, this feels like this is a kid-friendly visual novel game, which there really is no way you're going to get a kid to play a visual novel game if they realize that's what they're doing. Seems kind of what that is, though. It's 1 to 2 hours long, so not a super long game for $10. That's asking quite a lot, but that's not a reason to remove it. It's just a reason to be careful. So once I start getting a little bit more picky, I might consider removing this amongst the genre of visual novels, but I still might leave this because this is a very Western style visual novel. It's not a dating sim, it's not about romance, it's not about horror, it's not gonna anime character aesthetic. But then you also run into a problem that you have to be very careful. There's a lot of bad video game developers, for lack of a better term, that want to tell a story. They're obsessed about the story they're telling. Usually the story they're telling is autobiographical and kind of boring, and they can't really make a game around telling that story, so they make these simplistic visual novels. Sometimes they're game jam games even, where they do it in a short amount of time. This developer is the same developer that made Cible, which I took off my wish list because she totally did make a visual novel that was autobiographical, and part of the problem is that it is supposedly you're playing as this gamer girl, but you keep running into screenshots here that make it look like it's a cam girl character. For example, this, and you can see that's mixed reviews. And the next game is, I imagine, not much better. So I really don't have confidence in this developer. And you'll be surprised how many people put NA, as in not applicable, as the game publisher. So these are multiple people who have marked the publisher as not applicable, and now Steam thinks that a not applicable exists as a company, which is wrong. They should realize that that's not what was meant and remove that and block people from using NA as the publisher. Like, they clearly in the background need to create a system where you by default have a checkbox that says, is this game self-published or do you have another publisher? And if you have another publisher, then they need to have you put in some kind of special publisher ID number instead of saying, oh, my publisher is this company. There should be some verification to make sure your publisher actually is publishing that game. which more than likely, if you do have a publisher, they're making the Steam page anyway, so it wouldn't be a problem. Moving forward, we have a game called Kings and Assassins. It's a 2018 game with only 4 reviews, so I can just put this on the follow list. It's a renowned 2-player game. Can you not play single player? It says single player. Moving forward, I guess it doesn't really matter. We don't even have to worry about that. Next we have King Oddball. I think this game probably has lost any relevancy. I heard people talking about it. I saw reviews for it when it first came out, but you can see it's 26 reviews, it's 88% positive. It never really struck me as a game that I really wanted to play. More and more I'm starting to realize that a lot of the mainstream video game media that I was following and watching when younger had very odd tastes sometimes, and not really highlighting games for any really great reason. All this is a very basic physics game. It doesn't seem like there's anything here that would justify this. This is just an Angry Birds clone, basically, with slightly different experience. This developer 10 Tons of a game called Tesla vs. Lovecraft. It doesn't look that interesting. It looks like a real-time strategy game. They made a game called Judge that doesn't look that interesting. They made a game called Time Recoil that doesn't look that interesting. We have one called Spellspire, which I'll look at. Baseball Riot doesn't look that interesting. Let's see. Neochrome. A lot of top-down twin-stick shooters. I don't like top-down twin-stick shooters. It's just a lot of games here, and none of them look amazing. So yeah. I'm gonna remove King Oddball because it just does not look like a game I want to play. And certainly there have been games I have played and purchased simply because I saw other people review and give them rave reviews, and then come back and not have a very good experience with them. So you always have to be careful and understand who is reviewing a game, and do you trust their opinion, or does their opinion line up with your opinion at the very least. This looks like a top-down shooter according to the tags, and not a real-time strategy game. So Tesla vs. Lovecraft doesn't look very interesting either. Not being very generous with these games, I know, but that's fine. Then we have Spellspire, 28 reviews positive, 82% positive. You spell words, and as you spell words, you go up and up the tower. I think I could be into this one. Let's just see if there's some negative reviews that would complain. Let's see. Well, actually, let's skip this really long one and read this one. The core mechanic is alright. Find anagrams quickly out of a set of 10 tiles. I wish the dictionary was less restrictive. I also wish the tiles, which appeared to come in hard-coded sets of 10, always had the courtesy of including a 10-letter word. The first 99 floors of the tower are cute. The elemental abilities and unlocks give enough variety and progression to keep it interesting. A smidge more enemy variety might have been nice. The end game after the 99 is where everything falls apart. To beat the tower boss, you need to grind for hours, resorting to using an anagram solver, and most likely both. To beat the dungeon boss, you have to slog through 500 more rooms, 100 floors, times 500, 5 rooms each. Each dungeon room Has a randomized challenge, so random in fact that they may ask you to create wards starting with H and then give you a tile set with no H, forcing you a restart and wasting even more time. Even if you were able to clear through the first 99 tower floors and all their star challenges with ease, the game would grind to a halt here. I would really prefer the games that end because they are finished over games that end because they grow boring. I want to leave a game having fond memories of it and with some sense of closure. Spellspire misses that mark. Yeah, it seems like really bad gameplay development. Like, why not just have an infinite mode? Why not, after the 100th tower, beat the boss pretty easily and then unlock an infinite mode on the menu? Well, do I want to keep Spellspire then, or is maybe there's some hope? Like, because I also tried God of War and I didn't like that game either. So I already am at strike one as far as spelling games. Let's see. So maybe I really don't like spelling games as much as I think I do. Well, here's one, Letterquest Grimm's Journey Remastered. That's rated very positively. I don't think Word Killer is gonna do it. So let's close this tab and then instead look at Letterquest Grimm's Journey Remastered. 94% positive. Yeah, this seems like it's the same idea, just done by a different company better. And if we went back to the recommendation engine of Steam, I bet we don't find anything better. Nope, nothing better. See, I'm not even seeing a negative review. Bookworm Adventures instead, because that's what such a game should be like. Art may look fun on the screenshots, but that's all you've got. Same repetitive backgrounds combined with the same repetitive spooky monsters. Grinding for the game does not make it any more enjoyable, and you're going to need all those upgrades and potions badly at some point. The language skills won't help you much when the boss can take you down in a few hits, while a 5-6 letter ward barely scratches you. By the way, both of these Anagram games are like the game Countdown that airs in the UK somewhat. I've gotten into watching some of that online. Bookworm Adventures doesn't exist. It doesn't seem like it exists on Steam. Apparently Bookworm Adventures is not on Steam, so that recommendation doesn't help any. Well, despite that negative review, 94% of the 138 other reviewers say it's positive. So I think until I can find something better, at least, this will stay on the wish list. Moving forward, though, we're supposed to be looking at things that start with the letter K. We have King's Bounty Crossworlds. Looks like it's a turn-based RPG. Looks like it might be an elf game. In my slight side quest of playing elf games. This is a 2010 game, and I would bet this probably falls out of relevancy just because I'm thinking that there's not really a reason to play this game. Says it's a standalone expansion of the famous King Bounty Armored Princess role-playing game that contains an improved version of it, 2 additional campaigns, and a world editor. Which I have never heard of. King's Bounty Armored Princess. Over 200 hours of gameplay for a game I don't recognize. This looks like a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic style gameplay. Hex grid turn-based. But then you also have top-down gameplay. So what else has this developer made? Well, they have a 2009 King's Bounty Armored Princess. We could look at that. And there's a collector's pack. There's Platinum Edition. And then Space Rangers Torn Apart was in 2013. The collector's pack came out in 2014 and the Platinum Edition came out in 2010. So which one's better at that point? Collector's pack is also more expensive. Seems like though that this developer hasn't made anything else. So that's more of a thought that this really isn't a game that has relevancy. There's a King's Bounty Dark Side game that's mixed reviews also, that seems to be made by a different company. In fact, there's another King's Bounty game. So yeah, what else do they have? I'm looking at all these games, none of them look familiar at all, even though that they're rated highly. It's just very strange to have so many games that are rated positively, but then you see a lot of games are rated mixed also. It's just a lot of games in general. Yeah, I think I'm already sold to removing King's Bounty Crossworlds. Like, we're gonna run into this problem of just RPGs. I've got too many on the wish list. Things that aren't in the top 10 don't make any sense at all. So, like, this version of King's Bounty Armored Princess looks really similar to the game we just were looking at, so I don't even really see the difference there. Then the collector's pack includes quite a few games. Quite a few. And the Platinum Edition includes fewer games. They need to be allowed to go back and change the names then. And yeah, King's Bounty Dark Side from a completely different developer. Nope. Not seeing anything here that sells these games. Moving on, we have King's Table: The Legend of Ragnarok, which is a Old Norse board game called King's Table that they honestly aren't 100% sure how it's played, but they clearly, this developer figured out some kind of rule set and established it. So as a fan of games that aren't just video games but other kinds of games, board games and such, playing a really old game is an interesting idea. This is from Pico Interactive, the company that brings back older games. This clearly 1993 game is not going to be amazingly brilliant, but it would be interesting to cover. Unless I could find something that's plays King's Table and it has more polish on it and is more recent, but clearly that's not the case. Moving on. Kingdom Rush Frontiers, an overwhelmingly positive game, but it's a tower defense game, so do I want to play an overwhelmingly positive tower defense game? I guess maybe I'll keep this one. I hate tower defense games for the most part because they, for the most part, suck, but maybe this is a good one. You gotta bow down to the masses on this one. Just 96% positive over its lifetime. There must be something here worth it. Doesn't seem like it has any microtransactions or anything as far as I can tell, just briefly skimming it. Kingdom New Lands, I believe we already talked about this one. So yeah, that'll stay on the wish list. Kings of Amalur Reckoning. Now, this is a recognizable game, but potentially, again, if I give it a few more years, it's already 6 years old, maybe there's no real reason to play this, and there's better reason to play some of the other Western RPGs. It's definitely questionable. Like, I'm not certain, but right now I suppose I just leave it on the wish list. As far as Kingdoms of Amalur, doesn't seem like there's another game by Big Huge Games. Doesn't seem like there's another game in the series by 38 Studios. And so, unless EA has some other Kingdoms of Amalur, yeah. The subtitle Reckoning here is confusing because it makes it seem like this is a sequel to some game, but as far as Steam is concerned, that it isn't. This is the one and only. Next we have King of Israel, a strategic turn-based game. Always kind of interesting in playing a historical Egyptian Israel style game. Maybe this is a cool game. It's based on a board game. Maybe it's not. You can see it came out in 2015. It's got 43 reviews, 86% of which are positive. We can watch the video and see how it actually plays. It seems like it's kind of an event-based card game. Seems like it is based on early Christianity, Judaism in the events that are happening, because they have golden calves and such. Guess that would just be Judaism in this instance. It doesn't look terrible, but it may be pretty simple. And I wouldn't be surprised if this publisher hasn't published anything else. I wouldn't be surprised if these two developers haven't made anything else. Well, somebody did make something else. It's a problem certainly when they have the developers just list their names, though. Like we're gonna eventually run into a game on Steam that has 25 people listed as the developer. That's just gonna not make any sense. So I'm gonna leave Kings of Israel. Engvik. It's a platforming game. A joyful but unforgettable land. Seems like you're playing as Noah or something. It's rated very positively. Looks like it's, for the most part, just a simplistic platformer. But you know what? I'll add it to the wish list. Why not? It's probably not going to be too expensive anyways. 1 to 9 hours of gameplay. Moving forward, we have a early access game called Kurchov's Revenge. That just needs to be moved to the follow list easily enough. I think at this point we're going to move more things to the follow list and actually remove. Next we have a game called Kith Tales from the Fractured Plateau. This is 81% positive from 33 user reviews. It's a free-to-play adventure game. It definitely looks different than, say, Kids does, while still being, for the most part, black and white. Maybe there's a little bit of brown in the shirt. This kind of looks like a point-and-click adventure. Yeah, it really just looks like it's an adventure of some sort. Maybe it's an analogy for segregation or something, making a political statement. Well, yeah, this looks interesting. I could see why this would have caught my attention. This might be super simplistic too, but and not very long. It's had an all-time peak of 3 players. Again, this might be a game that is just it might be a hidden gem, but it might be not. Now I look here and I see issue 2, please. So this seems to be a cliffhanger. Just walk around for 2 minutes, but you can't do anything at all. It's short, point and click, problem solving game. You can miss some instructions and there's no way backtrack the dialogue. You need to figure out by trial and error on every item, and it's a small game. Dull art and music it lacks can be forgiven since it's short game, but I can't recommend it. You can finish it within 20 minutes. Watch the video, that's the entire game. And so if you buy the DLC, since this is free, then maybe they will make a continuation of the game. But then they went on to make this. So I'm thinking I'm gonna leave Kith on the wish list. It's free, so for the most part it doesn't really need to be reviewed. I would just play it at some point when I ran out of games I've already paid for, but that pretty much means never playing the game. If this interests you, you could just play it right now. The only thing that might change is this game, The Maker's Eden. It says episodic, releasing in 3 parts plus bonus content. It's saying this is a hypertext adventure game in the style of a motion comic. You play as a character trying to discover a predefined purpose in a science fiction inspired world filled with androids, flying cars, and an early 20th century vibe. Purchases for all 3 acts, of which 1 and 2 are ready to be played right now, 3 is in development. I don't know. I'm thinking I'm gonna take it off. Last update 709 days ago. Don't buy this, it's abandoned. Yeah. I'm thinking that's the case here. I'm gonna take this game off, Kith, because the developer has gone missing. AWOL, absent without leave, with their other game, and I don't think they'd ever make a continuation of this story. I don't think this game has any relevancy at that point, or there's any reason to cover it. So we can just ignore it. It might be a hidden gem, but it is going to be a hidden gem buried in the sands of time with so many other games that just may be good but don't have relevancy. It's like, let's see, moving on. Next we have Kitten Adventures in City Park. This is very positive, 93% of 284. And you can see this is like a watercolor painting game, family friendly. It's probably a super short, super simplistic game, to be fair. I imagine it's mostly a pointer and click around. The game trains memory and attention, full multi-voice acting. Game is intended for 3-year-olds. So then the question would be, what else has this developer made? And let's see, is this a troll developer? I think this possibly is a bit of a troll developer. And even if it isn't, this is just like the previous game, kind of an irrelevant game. The bonus content is $5.99, so then you get stuck with that. And yeah, I don't think I want to cover this game ever. I would like to see a water painted style game at some point, but I'm not even sure that that would ever happen. It's an interesting idea, but not from this developer. Next we have Kitty Powers Matchmaker, which is a sort of dating sim game, but it's really more you're playing as the matchmaker and matching two people together so they fall in love. It is a pro LGBTQ style game, so you'd probably take that because your boss in the game is the drag queen diva Kitty Powers, so you take that. But I don't think there's really too much other to say about it. It's very well reviewed, and it's not really a dating sim. I don't think that there's any nudity or sex in the game. It's more of a matching statistics. It's pretending like you're a Match.com or something like that. And so yeah, that sounds interesting. $10 probably a decent enough price. The less the better. But yeah, I don't know why I'm highlighting the name. I'm not going to remove it from the wish list. Now, oddly, it is probably worth mentioning that from my memory, I don't think I can recall any kind of matchmaking game that's happened before, so there's not a lot to compare that to. Generally, a dating sim game is not matching random people. So yeah, there is a little bit of weirdness there. I guess it's a unique idea. It doesn't seem like it's a unique idea, but it kind of is. Next we have Clang. It's a rhythm game that pushes beyond button presses into tempo into the world of fast-paced exploration and platforming and combat. Now, I have no rhythm. This game is 78% positive of 73 reviews. So I really am going to have to see this game and see if there's any chance I think I could play this. I love this art style. This looks very wild. But that's not really what you're seeing. This looks like you're running and then you can change your cone of where you're going to attack. But this is just so crazy. Yeah, I do not believe that there's a second, for a second I could do this. So this one's gonna be removed from the wish list. I wouldn't get past the first level. I'm fairly certain. It is kind of ironic that somebody who's played so much video games as I have still has no rhythm, but most video games don't really require it. We can see this developer hasn't developed anything else, and this publisher has one other game. Well, actually two other games. When did this come out? 2016? Yeah. So yeah, Clang's got to be removed from the list. Let's see, the Frost Rune is like a Viking myth point and click adventure game. I'm such a sucker for point and click adventure games though that I'm immediately gonna add it to the wish list. It's rated very positively, so don't even really have to look at it that much. Last thing I need to do though is add games that start with the word V, and it's gonna be a really long episode. Then we have Shadow Puppeteer, which is a platformer adventure local co-op game. Can you play it single player? It says so. There was a game that I played by, I believe, Compulsion Games. What was the name of it? I've forgotten the name of it. But it was a French lady that could make her shadow work on a wall, kind of like this. Looks good. So I'll add Shadow Puppeteer onto the wish list. I'm gonna add more than I take off. Next we have Clocky, Klocki, a minimalistic puzzle game. It's a single screen Unity game, but it looks interesting enough to keep this on the wish list. See if we can get the video to actually play so we can see how it actually works. Well, I don't know exactly how that's supposed to work, but it still looks interesting enough that I want to try it. Next we have Klondike Solitaire Kings. This is from Boogie Games Studios, which is not great alien games. So the only reason why I think I'd have this is because I want to actually play Klondike Solitaire, which is known as kind of just basic solitaire. It probably isn't worth playing, and it's an older game, so it's not like I could really knock it down to the follow list. But we've added a bunch of solitaire games to my wish list, but they aren't this solitaire. So it's kind of a different game completely. Let's see. Let's see what this other solitaire game is for. Looks like there might be some DLC. Probably is not that good of a game, honestly. What I'd like to see is if there was a recommendation for a Klondike Solitaire game down here that would be better. Very basic UI, no sounds, annoying, and 2 colorful backgrounds. I think that's about all we're gonna get. So Klondike Solitaire Kings on that one very short negative review is going to be removed because of just how few people have actually played it. So I guess not that many people really want to play Klondike Solitaire. Then when we look at the games that they're developing, they're not particularly great games otherwise. So yeah, that confirms my decision some more. Solitaire Cat Pirate Portrait. Mixed reviews on this one, clearly not that good either. Next we have a game called Knee Deep. What is this? A Choices Matter Noir Mystery. It's rated very positive at 82%. I'd like to see what the gameplay is, or is it just all a Telltale clone game? This might just be a Telltale game clone, which is an interesting idea, but kind of a dumb idea too, because it's not like the Telltale gameplay mechanic of making choices was great. But then again, I guess Mass Effect and several other games were implementing very similar conversation systems, although to be fair, the other games had other kinds of gameplay mechanics, where Telltale games only had conversation mechanics. Now might be a good time to pause the video and take a break. This really seems like it's mostly conversation. But I don't think I want to remove it just because of that. Like, it's still rated very positively. What have they developed otherwise? Just nothing. So that's the only game that they've made, and it can be played in VR. Do you need VR? Let's see. Now supported in VR on Vive and Oculus. The original and VR versions. Interesting. See, that's just not the kind of game that you'd really think. Contrast was the game I was thinking of, by the way. Yeah, it's like Compulsion Games, I believe, made Contrast, and then they made A Happy Few. Yep. That was the Shadow game I was thinking about. Good game, short. Ending kind of shorter and not really what I was expecting it as far as a game. But yeah, at 82% positive, Knee Deep will stay on the wish list. Next we have Knights and Bikes, which is not out yet, so this game can go on the fall list. Right. Probably will be a pretty good game from Double Fine. It's probably a spiritual successor to the idea of what was it that they well, I guess I could just click on Double Fine and find out, couldn't I, to remember what game I'm thinking of. No, I can't. Well, Costume Quest is the name of it, yeah. This is the spiritual successors, probably, of Costume Quest, which are Halloween trick-or-treating RPGs for kids, sort of, but not really. So, yeah, I think they're taking that idea and maybe expanding on it a little bit. Next we have Knock Knock. This is a game I played on my cell phone and I didn't get all the way to the end. I'm not 100% sure I'd really want to play this game, but I don't have a good reason to remove it. The problem with it is kind of a hard horror game where you're required to walk around the house for kind of no reason. So you're just not supposed to be in certain rooms and you're not supposed to do certain actions at certain times, and you just walk around the house until you can move the clock forward. So it gets slow. It's this person who's having these nightmares and hallucinations, and like I never really got very far in it. And if I was to cover it again, I imagine I wouldn't get very far in it too, but maybe I could read some walkthroughs that would help. I don't know how long this game really would take either. It's probably not that long. See, has Ice Pick Lodge since 2013 even come out with any other games? Well, Pathologic is what they're working on now, so like they're moving on. So honestly, I could probably do a 30-minute spotlight on Knock Knock and then cover Pathologic, and it would make a lot of sense. And The Void, I believe, is already on my wish list, and Cargo Quest for Gravity I either decided to keep on my wish list when I was looking at Seas, or I decided to take off, so I'm not even going to open it because I know I handled it before and I don't want to undo whatever decision I made so long ago when I was dealing with games that started with C. Like Pathologic Classic HD is very positive, so I'll make sure that's on the wish list. And I want The Void on the wish list. They seem to kind of stick in the same genre of horror games over and over again, although they're doing slightly different things each time. Next we have a game called Not. It's 15% positive. Well, 15 reviews, 86% positive. It's basically a single screen Unity game. They are their own genre as far as puzzle games, and it's, I guess, woodblock puzzles is what you would call them, more than an actual knot puzzles, but it's kind of the same idea. You solve these puzzles. The idea of real-world puzzles being recreated on PC is actually a genius idea. It really undercuts how expensive real-world puzzles can be. If you are a fan of real-world puzzles and you have a bunch of them, you're spending probably a significant amount of money on those things, and doing a lot of shipping and a lot of ordering custom things that are not produced in mass. So it would be kind of cool if there was some obsessive puzzler out there who was constantly updating his game, stealing the ideas of people. But it certainly is not the same thing either. The whole idea of a lot of these real-world puzzles is that they're in your hands and you can feel them and interact with them in that way. But for this game, I think it's the best approximation we'll ever get. And I'm not sure any reviews are going to load. All-time peak of 4, so it's pretty niche audience. Not very popular. Controls are painful, it's not really playable for me. This is one negative review. Be a great game in VR. So a couple complaints here of using a keyboard, not a problem for me. I've got mouse, I've got controllers. So if there's any way to play this game, I'd find it. Now I don't know if I'd pay $6 for it, and historical low price of $3 is still kind of high, but that's not a good enough reason to take it off the wish list. It's just a reason to not buy it when I'm actually buying games. Let's see, what is this game tagged with sexual content and nudity? No. So we have Kihume Inbu Roy Ra Ra, which is a comprehensive rebalance of the popular fighter game Koihime Inubu, featuring 14 playable characters with Shuro and assist character Kaku joining the rivals on Battlefield for the first time. So this game is from 2018, so I really should just throw it in the follow list. It's 86% positive, 88% positive right now. It's from a couple of companies I don't recognize as far as developers, but it is from Degaisia, which I do recognize that publisher. Now, if I was going to play a fighter game, am I really going to play this one? No, I don't think so. I just noticed that some of these fighters have their boobs wrapped and that's all they have for a bra, which I guess technically doesn't qualify as nudity. So let's see. What I'm wondering here is if this game has relevancy. What else has Unknown Games made? Well, their first game came out in 2016. This update came out in 2018. And that's as far as Steam knows all that Unknown Games has made. Whereas M2 Co. Limited also made Tokyo School Life. Let's see, which is 94% positive. Mouse code, and see, that doesn't strike me as really relevant either. And then Gigishia, however you would pronounce that. Let's see. Hatsune Miku VR, Space Invaders Extreme. And then 81 other games. So it's really just a random assortment in this case. So I don't think that puts them really in good standing. I guess the question here is, how many fighting games do I want to have? Because it does become really unlikely that this developer is going to be the developer of the next Blaze Blue and beat Blaze Blue out. The original version of this game, I guess, needs to be added. Then this one actually is tagged with nudity. Alright. So yeah, this is a sex fighting game, sorta, is the best I can get from it. So yeah, not a series I'd cover, but maybe if I was gifted those games, I'd play them and then see if maybe I could edit some footage together and cover them up and give them some coverage. Moving on, we have a game called Coloro. Let's see, it is a puzzle platformer co-op colorful game. Let's see. How does this game play? I'm not getting a good feeling on, I mean, it says puzzle platformer, yes, but I'm not 100% sure how that works. Like, how fast are the enemies? Are there any enemies? What are our abilities? Is this a Super Meat Boy game? Is this a something a bit slower? One button gameplay? This feels like a Super Meat Boy game, but it also feels kind of slow, which would be good in my instance because Super Meat Boy was too difficult and too fast for me. But also this feels kind of dull. Like, I'm not really seeing anything here that interests me. And it only has 10 reviews and it's positive. I could put this on the follow list and just do that. But honestly, I'm seeing enough here already that tells me this is not a game for me. Yep. Don't even have any negative reviews come up. And the studio hasn't developed anything else. And the publisher hasn't published anything that interests me. I can take this off the wish list pretty easily. Yep. It's ironic that the sex games stay on, and a game like this I can just easily say, nope, I'm not going to play it. But that's really because it comes down to the gameplay mechanic here. It's like these Super Meat Boy style games are no good for me because I have a bit of arthritis in my hands, and if I play too much or if I'm having to reset and try and really struggle through things, it's painful. Also, it slows me down a little bit. So I think Super Meat Boy is kind of the penultimate game like Super Meat Boy, and because of that case, it is also like the most difficult game in that series. I couldn't even beat the first boss. Next we have a game called Kona, which is oddly negative. Went from very positive to extremely negative. This is the biggest gap we've seen so far. 35% in the last 30 days versus 83%. So what did this developer do? Like, they must have done something to piss people off, and it probably has nothing to do with it. The game. Let's see. Extremely abrupt ending that makes you feel like you're missing half the game. For the price, it was an interesting game, but the potential end ends up being wasted by the ending that feels very rushed. Looking at the game map, it seems like there's an entire other half of the game that just didn't end up getting fleshed out before they wanted to ship the game. Let's see. This one made the person nauseous. Game overall is lacking. Man, that seems like an odd that the game... Show me the graph. There are 3 negative reviews. So just give me all 9 of these negative reviews. Let's see. I'm just scrolling here. It was nice that it was crowdfunded and there was definitely a vision behind it, but there's just not enough to flesh out the game. So maybe the crowdfunders themselves are unhappy, but I'm not seeing anything like that. It seems like what happened is just people who have bought the game, maybe it went on sale. Too long didn't read. The game is either abandonware or extremely misleading. So maybe it was getting an unnaturally positive amount of reviews, but that would have been an extremely high amount of reviews. Let's see, Metacritic gave it a 73. 2. Well, I think I'm cool with removing this from the wish list. Like, I don't have any special love for Kona, and let's see, this developer has nothing else they're really offering. VR version. Let's see, Raven Scott is the other publisher, and you can see well, I did cover Dog Mendoza and The Adventures of Pizza Boy, which is rated 79% positive. You can see everything else that they published is mixed or negative for the most part. So it's in pretty bad company. So goodbye to Kona. Let's move forward. Let's see. This might be a troll game. Cappuccino All-Star Soccer. But it is rated very positively. And let's see. It's Crazy Superpower Soccer Game. That's what I understand it as. I'm still looking for a soccer game to play besides FIFA, if I was going to ever play any soccer games. Like, I definitely don't want to play an EA soccer game, or football as it's called everywhere outside of the United States. So it doesn't look terrible. I don't know if I'm specifically looking for one that has a bunch of super moves, like, or not, but yeah, I don't really see a reason to remove this from the wish list. May never buy it, may never cover it, but as it seems, it looks fine. Moving forward, we have Cult of Cthulhu Olympic. This is 100% positive of 11 user reviews. And it's a Lovecraftian casual adventure. Question is this really just a text-based adventure, or is there an actual game here? Because if it's just a text-based adventure, I don't think I'm super interested in it. But it also is odd that it wouldn't say text-based. See, if it's just diaries, files, maps, and that's it. Yeah, this really does look like this is probably just a reading game, and that is just not for me. That being said, this honestly looks like one of the best text-based games I've ever seen. Most of them are terribly ugly. So they put a lot of polish on it, and I do want to applaud that. But yeah, it seems like you're getting some options and you're clicking on the options. And I doubt these are all fully voice acted. No, it isn't. According to that, it says an average playtime is 1 hour and 30 minutes. So yeah, unfortunately, this one's got to go. I have no interest in reading an entire game. Video games are more of an interactive experience, in my opinion, than what that is offering. more of an audio-visual experience also. Next we have Kursk, which is supposedly coming out. So we just put that on the follow list. Move on. And that is that. So not a super long list of games that we had to go through. More than the J's, but mostly I think we definitely ended up with more games that potentially are going to be added to the wish list than games that are going to be removed. I don't even think we decided, like, not even a single K game is going to move to the top of the wish list. So yeah, quite a few going to the follow, quite a few are getting removed, but not a long list of games that we're gonna change. That's gonna be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube and tells them that my videos are worth watching. When you subscribe, click the notification bell, please. There's a bunch of links down below if you want to friend or follow me on things like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, or Battle.net. Those links are down below again. And if you want to support me, you can support me through Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and you can gift me a game off my wishlist like you've been seeing here, or a game that you just would like to see me cover, or if you don't want to make a decision, you can also gift gift cards. That's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.